6 spine-chilling first-date horrors revealed, terrifying encounters that will haunt you forever. Tara's heart raced as her phone buzzed incessantly in her pocket, the cool tingle of dread creeping up her spine. The night air felt heavier, laden with foreboding. Sure, she had set out for a simple date, but everything about Jacob, the gait of his walk, the glint in his eye, felt off. She tried to brush it aside, gripping his hand as they crossed the empty parking lot toward his car, but the cold embrace of anxiety wrapped around her like a vice. Maybe her mother's warnings weren't just exaggerated. Maybe they were true. With each laugh she forced over dinner, the feeling unfurled like a cold spider beneath her skin. Jacob's words were sharp and probing, dancing too closely to her past. He mentioned her favorite coffee blend, a detail no one should know this soon, from a stranger. The urge to flee bubbled to the surface. And those text messages from an unknown number? The longing urge to dismiss them now felt naive. Why didn't she pay them more mind? As they sped away from the glow of the city, Tara's pulse quickened. The bright lights dimmed behind them, swallowed by a veil of darkness that grew thicker with every passing moment. Jacob's voice took on a new tone, deeper, layered with something raw, something unsettling, as he turned down a desolate road. "You ever heard about Pine Grove Park?" he asked, his smirk barely visible under the faint glow of his dashboard. Tara instantly turned cold. Pine Grove was infamous, a place where whispers of horror echoed through Maplewood's back alleys. Before she could speak, he began detailing the legend's stories of lost souls and chilling encounters. The laughter that escaped her lips felt forced, because every word seeped into her like venom. He leaned closer, a gleam in his eye that set her heart pounding as he twisted truths of her past, dark narratives that hadn't settled in the light. What kind of game was he playing? Panic clawed at her throat. "Hey," she stammered, clutching the door handle as his chuckle twisted into something sinister, "maybe we should head back?" But before she could finish her thought, Jacob's laughter echoed like thunder, consuming her in darkness that flickered with electricity. Suddenly, her phone vibrated one last time, a desperate call for attention before the screen turned black, leaving her clutching a lifeline that was now lifeless. Seeking a way out, Tara flung the door open and bolted into the night, the damp earth squelching underneath her feet as the oppressive silence of the woods enveloped her. Vague shadows morphed into creatures of malice, branches snagged her flesh like claws seeking a prize. She ran faster, adrenaline surging, drowning out thoughts of safety. The park loomed like a monstrous figure behind her, Jacob's presence turning it into a hunting ground. She stumbled through the underbrush until a dilapidated silhouette loomed ahead, an abandoned school, whispers of twisted tales and haunted hallways. As she pushed the door open, a gust of air rushed past her, filled with the stale scent of decay. Her heart thudded in her chest. Would she find safety or discover something more sinister waiting within? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The echoes of her footsteps became the only sound in the creeping silence, interrupted only by distant scuttling what lurked in the shadows. Each noise hardened the fear within her. As she peered into the dark corners of the school, all semblance of her suburban life faded, replaced by a visceral awareness that she was no longer alone. The world she trusted began to unravel, laying bare the vicious threads connecting her life with Jacob's intentions, and every second felt like a countdown. Just as she steeled her nerves, a shift in the air sent a jolt through her body. Something whispered her name from the hallway. Would she unravel the horror before it consumed her? The night had only just begun. Tara's breath quickened as she stood frozen in the dim corridor of the abandoned school. Shadows danced on the crumbling walls like ghostly apparitions, teasing her with the promise of something more than mere horror. The whisper calling her name was seductive, pulling her deeper into the darkness. Tara. It coiled around her mind, sending a chill racing down her spine. She took a shaky step forward, navigating through the debris littering the floor. The air was thick with the scent of mildew, mingling with something metallic that clawed at the back of her throat. As she ventured deeper into the abyss, the walls seemed to close in around her, pressing against her heart like a vice. Every creak of the floorboards echoed in the silence, amplifying the pulse of fear hammering in her chest. "Get a grip," she muttered to herself, trying to shake off the creeping terror. But her words felt hollow, lost in the ominous void surrounding her. With each step, her thoughts swirled, tinged by the image of Jacob's twisted grin. The remnants of their date clung to her like a shroud. What did he want? How had he known her so well? A flicker of movement caught her eye. Reflexively, she turned toward it, her heart racing. A figure darted at the edge of her vision, vanishing into a stream of darkness. Panic gripped her harder. "Is anyone there?" Her voice was high-pitched, barely above a whisper. There was no response, only the heavy silence settling back like a quilt. She moved forward, driven by a mix of dread and fierce curiosity. The hallway led her to a classroom door slightly ajar, a sliver of cold light slipping through the gap. The whispers intensified, urging her to go in. With a deep breath, Tara pushed it open. Inside, the classroom bore the scars of abandonment. Desks were overturned, dusty textbooks littered the floor like fallen soldiers. A crude drawing scrawled on the blackboard cued a sickening sense of déjà vu, a crude depiction of something monstrous. Her pulse quickened. She knew this place, she had a memory tied here like broken chain links. "Why are you here?" A voice echoed from behind her, sultry and yet sharp as glass. Tara spun around, her breath hitching in her throat as she faced a girl pale, with hollow cheeks and wild, gray eyes that seemed too big for her skeletal frame. She seemed otherworldly, like a remnant of this decaying place, too far gone yet still hauntingly present. "Get out," she rasped, the urgency in her tone cutting through the fog of fear. "You need to leave before he finds you." "Who are you?" Tara's voice trembled. "They don't understand," the girl continued, her eyes darting to the door. "He knows where you are, he knows what you're afraid of." Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the hallway, making the girl whirl around, her wide eyes filled with terror. "Run!" she screeched, lunging towards Tara, but the door slammed shut before she could reach it. The sound echoed ominously down the hall, swallowed by the walls that had seen too much. Tara pressed her back against the door, her mind whirling in chaos. Outside, footsteps rang out, drawing closer. Each thud resonated with Jacob's laughter, dark and taunting. With a gut-wrenching realization, Tara understood her options were dwindling. She had to find a way out, but in her heart, deep down, she struggled with the truth that rose like bile. The danger she desperately tried to outrun was closing in, and she might just be walking into its open arms. Feeling the aura of something dark and oppressive surround her, she lunged for the window. It was her only chance. As she prepared to leap through the shattered glass, a hand wrapped around her wrist, icy and unrelenting. What had she just unleashed in the dark? Would she discover the horrors waiting outside, or would she be trapped in a nightmare spun from her own fears? Tara's heart pounded as she felt the grip tighten around her wrist. The coldness radiated like frostbite, shockwaves of terror coursing through her body. She spun to face the girl, desperate eyes pleading for understanding. "Let go of me." Tara gasped, her voice barely a whisper, thick with panic. But the girl's grip only became stronger, her eyes narrowing with fierce urgency. "Not her," she shrieked, the desperation in her tone almost forgetting the terror that had locked Tara in place. "He'll use you. You're a key to his chaos." Before she could process the words, a violent shudder rocked the classroom, rattling dust and old memories from the air. The shadows twisted together like snakes, slithering along the walls, and Tara felt the temperature plummet to an unbearable freeze. "We need to move." The girl insisted, her voice now frantic. She yanked Tara toward her, and for a split second, Tara hesitated. Should she trust this specter of despair? But before she could decide, the unmistakable sound of Jacob's laughter echoed through the cracks of the building. "Where are you?" he called, the malice in his voice slicing through the hushed atmosphere. Tara's blood ran cold. She remembered that laugh they had shared a moment full of charm, but now it twisted her stomach like a knife. "Open the door." His voice was much closer now, pulsing with darkness, exuding a twisted sense of familiarity that sickened her. Shaking off the girl's grasp, Tara moved toward the window, her mind racing with options, each one filled with dread. The footsteps thudded with relentless rhythm, inching closer to her sanctuary. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, half to herself, half to the dark hallway. "Only you can contain him," the girl replied urgently, glancing back toward the door as if expecting it to burst open at any second. "He needs your fear, understand that. You have to face it to escape." The shadows trembled with the monster's approach. Desperation clawed at Tara's heart. She looked worldwide. There had to be some exit, something more than this sepulcher her only former comfort had turned into a nightmare. "Listen." The girl's voice cut through the fog. "You can't keep running from Jacob. Fight back. That's the only way to break his hold over this place and over you." Tara glanced at her, brows furrowed, feeling the weight of disbelief pressing down on her chest. If she chose to stay, whether it meant confronting Jacob or embracing her own fear, there was no safe route. The door rattled violently, the laughter growing louder, promising destruction, threatening insanity. Sucking in a breath like a frightened deer, she turned back to the open window, bent on escape. The icy grip slackened slightly as the girl stepped closer, urgency sparking in her eyes. "Don't go. You'll only plunge into deeper darkness." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Tara saw fear mirroring her own. This girl was trapped in the same web, just a reflection of what could become of her if she allowed Jacob to thrive, but the window beckoned, glimmering with a hint of freedom. "I can't!" Tara cried, torn between instinct and salvation. Then, in a moment that seemed to stretch into infinity, the door gave way with a horrendous crash. Jacob stood there silhouetted against the light, a shadowy giant cloaked in malevolence and promise. "There you are, my sweet Tara," he purred, a grin creeping like poison across his face. A shiver raced down her spine. It was now or never. With every ounce of her will, Tara bolted for the window. But even as she leaped, she felt an invisible tether pulling her back, a pull that wouldn't let her escape. Would to shake the grip of her own nightmares? Or would she find herself suffocated by the shadows waiting to claim her? Tara's feet hit the ground hard, her heart thrumming in her chest like a caged bird. But before she could celebrate her leap toward freedom, a force jerked her back, as if some sinister hand had latched onto her ankle. She stumbled, falling against the cold, hard floor, gasping for breath. "That's it. Fight him!" the girl screamed, her voice now a chaotic blend of fear and fury. Tara's heart raced as she struggled to rise, trying to shake off whatever dark force was binding her. She cast a quick glance back at Jacob, who still loomed at the doorway, his figure bathed in an almost ethereal light that distorted his features into something grotesque and unsettling. "Don't let him in, Tara." The girl pulled at her, urging her forward with frantic desperation. "Remember who you are. You aren't just prey." But the laugh, the sweet, haunting melody wrapped around Tara, intoxicating and venomous. It echoed in her mind, stirring memories that twisted like barbed wire. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, though the quaver in her voice betrayed her. As if his laughter thrived on her weakness, it grew louder, filling the room with a sinister harmony that drowned out every rational thought. Jacob moved forward. He swept the room with his gaze, then locked eyes with Tara, a predator sizing up his next meal. "Oh, sweet Tara, you're so naive," he whispered, delighting in her distress. "Fear is how this dance begins. You're far more valuable than you know." The girl shuddered beside her, her expression shifting from anger to something akin to pity. "You have to remember, Tara. You're stronger than you think. Think of love, of hope, not fear. That's the key." As the shadows writhed around them, Tara felt a familiar warmth flicker within her. It danced around her, trying to fight through the darkness. She concentrated, the memories of laughter and joy piercing through the chaos. She thought of her friends, her family, the laughter they shared, the moments of true connection that felt like sunlight on a winter day. But Jacob's shadow inched closer, threatening to extinguish those flickers. "Hope?" he scoffed, his voice dripped with venom. "What has hope given you? Nothing but pain and abandonment. You're better off with me, Tara. I can help you embrace the truth of your existence." The words wrapped around her, squeezing, choking out her courage. "No!" Tara shouted, her vocal cords straining, channeling every ounce of defiance she had. A surge erupted from deep within her, forming a shield against the darkness. "I can't trust you." The girl's face radiated a desperate plea, urging Tara not to falter. The retreating glimmer of light around her began to stabilize, forming an almost tangible barrier against the encroaching shadows. Tara could feel a final shard of hope solidifying within her. She reached for it, grounding herself in the belief that she was not alone. With a swift movement, she turned to the girl, who gave a nod of encouragement. In that instant, Tara realized what she must do. Steeling her resolve, she screamed, "You will not control me." The classroom plunged into chaos, the walls quivering as the words reverberated in the room. Jacob flinched for a moment, the shadows howling in backlash, but it wasn't enough. With renewed determination, she pressed forward, blockading the storm with her new flames of resolve, illuminating the shadows that had anticipated her submission, but Jacob wasn't ready to yield. His grin darkened, the promise of violence etched into his features. "Oh, Tara," he cooed, voice now an eerie whisper. "The real fight is just beginning." As the ground beneath them trembled, unleashing a torrent of darkness around her, Tara's heart raced. Could she really be strong enough to confront the threat that governed her thoughts and affections? The shadows shifted, coiling like serpents, inching closer, whispering secrets she feared to hear. She needed answers. Would she find them in the light or succumb to darkness? Tara's breath quickened as the shadows grew heavier, their trembling forms wrapping tighter around her like a suffocating blanket. She could feel the darkness devouring her flickering light, each whisper becoming a taunt that clawed at her sanity. "Do you see how they revel in your fear?" Jacob's voice was a velvet weave of malice and mockery. "They thrive on your doubts, Tara. Surrender and join me. I promise you'll never have to feel pain again." The girl clung to Tara's arm, her grip desperate. "You have to believe in yourself," she shouted, her voice slicing through the haze. Tara could sense something shifting within her, an ember of defiance sparking against the frigid grasp of despair. "Do you think they care about you?" Jacob continued, his smile creeping wider, revealing teeth that glinted like gleaming daggers. "They'll abandon you, just like all the others. You'll always be alone." "No. We aren't alone," Tara cried, feeling the words surge from somewhere deep. "We have each other." The girl looked back, her expression a mix of fear and fierce determination. "Together." The words rang out like a battle cry, reverberating in the oppressive air, a rallying point against the encroaching shadows. Tara closed her eyes. Her heart thundered, each beat fueling the fire that threatened to extinguish the darkness. Images flooded her mind, friends sharing laughter, hugs of comfort, warmth that melted away fear. She placed a trembling hand against her chest, feeling the pulse, the life within her. The connection to others wrapped around her, a fragile rope of hope binding her to that vibrant world outside the shadow. "Enough!" Jacob roared, his patience fraying. The shadows shrieked and writhed, as though agitated by the bright flicker of Tara's resolve. In that moment of courage, a bright light emanated from her, pushing back against the darkness with all its strength, but it wasn't enough. Jacob surged forward, breaking through the fading brightness. "You're a fool, Tara. You think this is strength? You're merely delaying the inevitable." With every ounce of strength, Tara poured her spirit into the light. "Maybe it's not about winning or losing. It's about fighting back." The brightness pulsed like a heartbeat, strong and defiant, pushing the shadows back for just a moment. Jacob hesitated, the confidence cracking in his facade. But Tara felt fatigue creeping in. The light was draining. "Let us end this, shall we?" Jacob's voice was low and dangerous now, the shadows swirling around him like a tempest. And then, in an instant, he lunged. Tara's heart dropped in horror, but the girl next to her didn't falter. "Tara!" she yelled, pulling her toward a side door that had magically appeared, half hidden by darkness. "We can escape," she urged, the urgency in her voice pulling Tara back from the edge of despair. With no time to think, Tara nodded fiercely. They raced toward the door, breathless and pleading, the shadows reaching out to snag them. Just as she grasped the handle, she felt a sharp pain at her ankle. Jacob's grip had returned, his laugh a cruel serenade of triumph. "You won to escape this time." Panic erupted in Tara as she bucked against the pull. The girl screamed, "Now!" In a wild surge, Tara yanked the door open. A blinding light flooded the space, illuminating the shadows in agonizing howls. She took a step, one heart-pounding leap toward freedom, and vanished into the light, but darkness clung to her like a memory she couldn't shake. Was she truly free, or had she merely wandered into a deeper nightmare? As the light swallowed her whole, she wondered what awaited her on the other side and if it was possible to leave Jacob's lingering threat behind. What if the real horror was yet to come? Tara landed with a hard thud, the sensation of falling replaced by a jarring impact. She gasped as pain shot through her limbs. Scrambling to her feet, she blinked against the harsh glare that enveloped her. Was this the freedom she had longed for? Around her was an empty room, walls painted a faded gray, the air thick with dust. The light flickered, casting shadows that danced along the cracks. Tara's heart raced as her eyes darted for any sign of danger. Where are we?" Tara whispered, her voice shaking. The girl who had pulled her through the door trembled beside her. "I don't know, but it feels wrong." The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Tara clenched her fists, the echoes of Jacob's cruel laughter still ringing in her ears. In the corner of the room, a mirror loomed, its surface tarnished and cracked. She took a step toward it, feeling the urge to see her reflection, to ground herself. As she neared the mirror, a cold draft swirled around her. The air turned stale, suffocating. Tara pressed her palms against the glass, willing herself to confront the flickering image before her. But what she saw chilled her to the bone. Her reflection shifted unnaturally. It was her, but not quite. The eyes were hollow, sunken, filled with a darkness that wasn't there moments ago. "Get away from it!" the girl cried, tugging on Tara's arm. "There's something wrong." Tara stumbled back, heart pounding. I need to understand." Suddenly, the mirror rippled, the surface warping like disturbed water. A hand reached out, a ghostly figure clawing for escape. The girl's horror-stricken face twisted into one of terror. "Please, Tara. Don't touch it." But curiosity tugged at Tara, as if unseen strings lured her closer. Her heartbeat drummed in her ears, drowning out reason. Just as she took a hesitant step forward, the glass shattered in a loud crash, sending shards flying like bullets. Tara screamed, instinctively shielding her face. Through the shower of glass, she caught sight of what lay beyond. A realm of darkness, choked with shadows thicker than the ones Jacob commanded. "Tara!" The girl grasped her tightly, eyes wide with fear. "We have to go. Now!" They turned to flee, but the door had vanished, leaving them trapped. Panic clawed at Tara's throat. "What do we do?" The shadows began to swirl around them, forming whirlpools of despair. Tara felt icy tendrils grip her ankles, pulling her down. The girl let out a strangled cry as one dark hand latched onto her wrist, dragging her back. "Let her go!" Tara shouted, wrenching free of the darkness holding her hostage. She lunged forward, determination surging amid the chaos. "Help!" The girl screamed, her plea sharp and raw. Every ounce of Tara's fear ignited into fury. "I want to let you take her." Reaching deep inside, she focused everything she had into her voice. "I refuse to be your puppet." The shadows recoiled momentarily, leaving the girl's wrist free. "Tara, we can beat this!" She yelled, joining Tara in the defiance, but the darkness howled in anger, gathering force. It surged as one mass toward them, a relentless tide intent on drowning their resolve. "Together!" The girl shouted, and for the first time, they shared a confident glance. Together, they stood against the gathering storm. An unseen energy pulsed around them, flickering against the consuming shadows. Tara felt warmth pooling in her chest as the light began to grow anew between them, fierce, incandescent, fueled by hope and resilience, but in their moment of unity, the real horror was only just beginning to unfold. What if Jacob's grasp extended beyond the mirror, into this new realm? What if escape was merely the beginning of an even darker nightmare? The darkness roared, a living beast hungry for their light. Tara and the girl she still didn't know her name stood back to back in a desperate effort to shield one another. Their breaths raced, mingling with the echoes of a distant foreboding. "Do you think we can hold on?" The girl panted, her voice barely piercing the thick, oppressive atmosphere. Tara bit her lip, determination flooding her veins. "We have to find a way out, we can't give up." And with that, they burst forward. Tara scanned the barren room, searching for a sign, anything they could use as a means of escape. The corners of the room shimmered ominously, shadows swirling like a snake's tail, as if waiting to strike. "Look!" Tara pointed towards a shadowy outline in the corner. There lay a battered door, hidden behind a veil of darkness. The walls seemed to tremble, whispering dangers that lurked in the shadows, but they didn't have time to hesitate. "Follow me!" Tara shouted, grabbing the girl's hand. They darted toward the door, every instinct screaming for them to hurry. The shadows hissed menacingly, threads of darkness snapping dangerously close. As they reached for the handle, a wave of coldness engulfed them. The door crackled with eerie energy, almost alive. Tara hesitated, dread pooling in her stomach. "Are you sure?" "Yes," the girl urged, eyes wide with fear. "We have to go." Gritting her teeth, Tara yanked the handle down. The door groaned, creaking open to reveal a dim corridor. A faint light flickered ahead, illuminating the way forward. "Go!" Tara shouted, shoving them both through. Once inside, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening thud, sealing the darkness away but trapping them within another unknown realm. Tara's heart raced wildly. The corridor smelled damp, musty, echoing with whispers that felt almost sentient, sinister. The light flickering in front of them was unsettling. With each step they took, the shadows fluttered against the walls, taunting them, teasing their every move. "What is this place?" the girl whispered, fear visible in her trembling hands. "I don't know, but we can't stop," Tara replied, her throat tight with suffocating anxiety. They trudged deeper into the corridor, skipping over cracked tiles and patches of dampness slickened by time. Suddenly, the whispers surged around them, and Tara froze. The air turned frigid, every breath visible in sharp bursts of chilled fog. A shadow darted past them, a quick movement that sent a shiver down her spine. She glanced at the girl, who had gone pale. "Did you see that?" Tara hissed. "See what?" The girl's voice wavered. "Tara, don't." The darkness thickened, and shadows coalesced into figures, faces forming in the void, twisted expressions of anguish and rage. Tara's heart thudded in her chest. "What do they want?" I don't know. The girl stammered, her eyes locked on a figure emerging from the blackness. It was a face, a reflection of distorted familiarity. Tara gasped. It was Jacob, frozen. She felt his voice slither through the air, chilling the very marrow in her bones. Did you think you could escape me, Tara? The game has only just begun. No. She screamed, stepping back, but the corridor warped, stretching with shadows pulsing, threatening to consume them whole. Suddenly, a wall of pain struck Tara, memories of Jacob's laughter enveloping her, dragging her down into dark waters laden with despair. I want to let you take me, she shouted, scrambling against the encroaching figures. The more you resist, the deeper you fall. You can't outrun the darkness, Jacob's figure taunted from the shadows, fueled by desperation and fury. Tara turned to the girl. We have to fight it. We can't let him win. But as she spoke, the corridor began to warp, twisting into shapes and labyrinths. The flickering light dimmed, suffocated by darkness filled with Jacob's taunts. Together? The girl asked, voice trembling. Together. Tara repeated, gripping her hand. But as they stared into the twisting shadows ahead, doubt gnawed at her resolve. Could they really confront something that was waiting just beyond that? Darkness, just as a chilling whisper echoed ominously in their ears, it dawned on Tara there might be no way back. Stay close, she warned, plunging into the swirling darkness. But even as she moved forward, the very shadows seemed to grasp at her heart, dragging her towards an uncertain fate. Had they truly stepped into a hell crafted by Jacob himself? What horror awaited them at the end of the corridor? Was this the beginning of their escape, or the start of an endless nightmare? The darkness swallowed them whole, a thick, suffocating shroud that pressed against their skin. Tara clutched the girl's hand tightly, her pulse racing as they moved deeper into the corridor. Shadows clung to the walls like hungry animals, their whispers growing more urgent, more insistent. Which way? Tara whispered, panic lacing her voice. The flickering light ahead pulsed like a heart, but it did little to chase away the dread swirling around them. There's a door. The girl shouted, pointing to a rusted, ironclad archway that loomed at the end of the passage. Its frame seemed to pulse, as if alive and waiting. Let us go. Tara urged, her feet pounding against the damp floor, heart hammering in sync with the whispers. They reached the door, but it stood stubbornly closed, a heavy weight that refused to yield. Tara pressed her ear to the cold surface, straining to hear anything beyond the cacophony of shadows behind them. A slow, mournful wail echoed through the sound was intimately familiar. The chill that crawled up her spine told her what it was. Jacob. What if he's behind that door? The girl's voice trembled, a whisper laced with doubt. Then we face him together, Tara replied, though her own voice wavered. She pounded her fists on the door, desperation clawing at her mind. Let us through. The wood splintered at her blows, splattering more of that chilling energy across the floor. Just then, the door shimmered, an eerie glow emanating from its cracks, illuminating faint shapes beyond. Tara glanced back, feeling the prickle of something watching them. Shadows danced behind her eyes, flickering too close. We can't wait. She turned back to the door and pushed with all her might. It swung open, revealing a dimly lit room, less of sanctuary and more a reflection of their fears. The air was thick and heavy, tasting of metal and ash. An old, rotting table lay in the center, surrounded by scattered chairs that stood askew, as if someone had fled in haste. Dread settled in her stomach, a feeling that something was waiting for them. Is this it? The girl breathed, her face pale, eyes darting around the room. Is this our escape? Before Tara could answer, the door slammed shut behind them with a thunderous crash, shaking the entire room. Startled, they spun around, hearts racing. A deep, mocking laughter filled the air, primal and haunting. You can't escape the game, Tara, Jacob's voice reverberated around them. You've only just entered the next level. Shut up. Tara shouted, anger blooming like fire within her voice. You aren't in control here. Are you so sure? His voice seemed to wrap around her, an invisible grip tightening. Let us see how far you're willing to go to save her. Suddenly, the floor beneath them groaned, tilting at a harrowing angle. The scattered chairs clattered like angry spirits trying to escape the chaos. Run! Tara screamed, tugging the girl's arm as they stumbled away from the sliding furniture, trying to gain their footing. As they fled, the shadows morphed into figures, swirling around them, clawing at their clothes, whispering secrets in frantic, breathless tones. Not everyone escapes, not this time, the girl gasped. What if we're trapped forever? Stop. Don't say that. Tara urged, fighting off dread, pushing through the fog of panic. They darted towards another door on the far side of the room, but it was surrounded by looming figures that shifted and clawed at their sanity. I can't, the girl stuttered, her resolve wavering. Together. Tara shouted, adrenaline pumping as she bolted forward, knowing they couldn't pause. They weren't alone, darkness and despair wrapped around each of them, begging for attention, for surrender. As they reached the door, Tara felt something latch onto her ankle, a grip as cold as ice. She stumbled, a sharp scream escaping her lips. The girl looked back, but Tara couldn't wait. Horror filled her as shadows cast doubts, voices mingling into a static of despair. With a fierce jerk, she kicked free and lunged for the door. It burst open, revealing a new realm, one that might promise escape or greater horrors. Tara! The girl cried, a pang of fear threading through her voice. Go! Tara shouted as she plunged through, tugging the girl along into the swirling unknown, teeth gritted against the relentless encroaching darkness behind them, but as the door slammed shut, sealing the shadows, an unsettling realization gripped Tara's heart. No escape exists without a cost. What awaited them beyond that door? Would they make it out, or would they become echoes in the endless night? The world beyond the door warped around them, colors swirling as if reality was being stretched against some cosmic tension. Tara stumbled, trying to regain her balance as the girl's grip tightened on her arm. They fell into a dimly lit room filled with murk and mist, shadows creeping across the floor like serpents. What is this place? The girl gasped, her voice drowned out by the unsettling silence that followed them through the door. Heavy and oppressive, Tara scanned their surroundings. Cement walls dripped with moisture, each puddle reflecting their fear-ridden faces. No windows. Just more doors, each rusted and locked tight. An eerie chill crawled over her skin. I don't know, but we have to keep moving. They edged deeper into the room, heartbeats echoing like deafening drums. The air felt thicker here, pressing down on them, as if it recognized their dread and reveled in it. Tara swallowed hard, visions of Jacob's smirk flashing in her mind. Then, a low, growling whisper began to swirl around them, threading through the damp air. Tara recoiled, instincts screaming that they weren't alone. Did you hear that? The girl trembled, squeezing her hand tighter. Yeah, let us just, Tara began, but the whisper grew louder, coiling around her like a serpent ready to strike. Not all souls return, not all souls find peace. Shut up. Tara shouted into the void, though the words felt weak against the mounting dread. They were trapped, hunted. Before she could think, Tara yanked the girl toward the nearest door, desperate to escape the sinister murmurs that filled the air, scratching at their sanity. Each step felt like treason against her own survival instinct. The knob resisted at first, rusty and stubborn. Panic surged as she forced it again, heart hammering, sweat trickling down her forehead. Finally, it creaked open, and they stumbled into another room that seemed even darker than the last. Oh God, the girl whispered, her wide eyes absorbing the sheer emptiness. A single chair sat in the center, facing a grimy mirror that hung crookedly from the wall. It looked like it had been abandoned for years, dust swirling in the weak light that managed to filter through the cracks. Don't look in the mirror, Tara whispered, horrified at the thought. It could be a trap. And yet, something drew her closer. She felt compelled, like the whispers had wrapped around her mind, tugging her slowly toward the reflection. The girl, sensing it, gripped Tara's shoulder. "Tara, please, don't. What if it shows us a way out?" Tara argued, but even as she spoke, a gnawing hesitation twisted in her gut. As she stepped forward, the air thickened. The whispers intensified into a cacophony of voices, overlapping and frantic. Tara felt her breath hitch in her throat, shadows flickered behind her, swirling like angry clouds. The reflection in the mirror shimmered, and in that instant, Tara's eyes widened. Within the glass, a twisted version of herself stood, mouth stretched in a grotesque smile, eyes void of humanity. "Look at me," it hissed, "your escape will cost more than you know." "No." Tara screamed, stepping back, but the grip of the darkness pulsed around them, tugging her closer as the room intensified with the shadows writhing in anticipation. The girl pulled at her arm, desperate. "You have to fight it. We have to go." With brutal force, Tara wrenched her gaze away, tearing herself from the mirror as if emerging from a trance. Together, they fled toward the far wall, echoed whispers clawing at their heels, deep laughter bouncing off the walls, taunting them, but as they reached the next door, it swung open not to freedom but into a void, an endless abyss where light didn't exist. "We can jump. We can make it," Tara urged, her heart racing. "Are you insane?" the girl exclaimed, eyes darting between Tara and the pitch darkness. "We'll die. We'll die here if we don't." In that split second, filled with desperation and horror, hesitation hung between them, heavier than the shadows creeping closer. Would they leap into the unknown, or would fear seal their fate? As the door slid shut behind them with a deafening thud, silence fell. But a voice cut through it, soft yet piercing. "Choose wisely what fate lay ahead. Would surviving cost them more than they were willing to pay?" Tara's heart raced faster than ever as the door to the void creaked ominously behind her, chilling silence enveloping them. The shadows swirled with insidious whispers, echoing doubts. "We have to go," Tara urged, fear gripping her tight. The abyss gaped before them, swirling with darkness that promised oblivion or maybe a last chance at escape. The girl gripped Tara's arm, eyes filled with desperation. "What if it swallows us whole?" Tara's mind whirled, every scenario flashing before her. Jacob's laughter skittered in the corners of her brain, taunting, twisting her resolve. She could almost feel him, ever near, waiting to ensnare her once more. "We can't stay here," she shouted, adrenaline surging, drowning out her fears. Gathering every ounce of courage, she stepped closer to the edge, its infinite depths beckoning them like sirens. "Together!" she cried out, holding the girl's gaze, grounding them both amidst the growing uncertainty. They had faced darkness before. This moment could not be the end. With a shared, silent agreement, they leaped into the void. Time warped around them, gravity lost all meaning, and as the darkness wrapped its fingers around them, there was an exhilarating flash of bright light. Pain pierced through her, then nothingness. Tara gasped, crashing onto hard ground. She blinked away the haze, heart thumping wildly as she looked around. This wasn't the abyss, but a forest glade bathed in soft moonlight, gentle breezes whispering among the trees. She grasped for the girl beside her, relief flooding her chest. They were alive, but where was Jacob? The closer they got to freedom, the darker the shadows clamored. The whispers faded into the rustling leaves, and Tara surged forward, shaking off fear and pressing on. "Where do we go from here?" the girl asked, scanning the tranquil surroundings. "Somewhere safe, anywhere but here," Tara replied, voice trembling yet determined. She felt a flicker of hope swell in her chest. The forest was alive, shadows playing tricks, watching as they moved. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the depths of the trees. It was a person, an elderly woman, weathered yet warm, eyes sparkling with ancient wisdom. "You've taken a brave leap, my dears. But the journey isn't over." Tara's breath halted. "You know about Jacob?" The woman nodded slowly, the corners of her mouth lifting in a knowing smile. Fear feeds him. You've survived the first step, but within lies the true battle. The girl shivered, gripping Tara's arm. What do we do? How can we fight him? Find your strength in love, in connection. Remember who you are apart from the darkness, the woman urged. You walk a path of your own choosing now. But how? Tara asked, uncertainty creeping back. By holding on to your memories, your joy, your compassion, the woman explained. He thrives on anguish. You must nurture the light within. Tara thought of her friends, her family, the laughter they shared, the warmth of their support. Together, Tara whispered, feeling the rush of love fortify her from within. The wind shifted around them, and the shadows in the trees began to stir as if sensing the slightest crack in their hold. He is coming, the woman said quietly. You must keep moving. The forest will guide you, but your hearts must lead. It's time to cast out the darkness, Tara said, her resolve crystallizing. We can do this. With a determined step, Tara and the girl plunged into the forest, each stride breathing courage, each memory a barrier against Jacob's encroaching terror. They raced forward, hearts thumping in unison, hands clasped as they faced the shadows that twisted around them, warping into forms of the past faces of torment, shards of fear, seamlessly merging into a haunting spectacle. Stay focused. Tara cried, her voice ringing clear despite the chaos. She squeezed the girl's hand tighter, channeling the bonds of friendship that had fortified them through this living nightmare. We know love. We know hope. Bright flashes of warmth ignited among the shadows. Tara felt the fire of her spirit swelling as memories flooded in shouts of joy, shared meals, adventures that had remained unshaken within her soul. Her laughter joined and overcame the whispers. You don't own me, she declared, turning to face the shadows that tried to pin them down. This isn't over, Tara, the darkness roared, a howl that filled the night with rage. I'll find you always. No, you won't. Tara countered fiercely, not breaking stride. You're nothing. The shadows recoiled, and light splintered through the underbrush, illuminating their path. Every ray reflected the love they nurtured, brightening the darkness. Together, they shouted, hearts igniting in strength. As they surged forward, the forest opened up before them, revealing a final glimmer of light. They could feel freedom, the sweet taste of victory tinged in the air. Tara stumbled into the clearing and looked back, breathless but unyielding. Jacob's silhouette flickered in the shadow line, a fading threat. She took a deep breath, knowing that while darkness might linger, it could never extinguish their light. This was their moment. They had chosen to fight back. Together, with one final glance, Tara clasped the girl's hand firmly, eyes bright with resilience. We're going home, she proclaimed. And together, stepping into the light, the darkness shrank behind them, unraveling into mere whispers of what once held them captive, and the shadows would fade. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. It matters. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to be a true fan and support the channel through these actions. You can't wait even one more second.